Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com. We're here. We're live. We're ready. Geo, how are you?
Buongiorno, everybody. God bless us all. Preakness Saturday on the horizon.
Tout a post, Geo. Tout a post. Exciting week, Preakness week. We are ready to roll. A lot to talk about. We did it for the Derby. It won't be quite as long this time, everybody, because we got a lot less horses. We only got nine horses as opposed to 20, so we're not going to take up everybody's morning. We'll get to all the questions at the end, but we'll get into it. And one thing I want to start with is this. I always say there is no value in a losing wager. None. Zero. And we'll come back to that when we talk about the races. But I want to start with that. That's my personal philosophy. No value in a losing wager. None. And again, we'll come back to that. Gio, you're the historian. I think, not to blow my own horn, but I think the best article ever written about, in my opinion, the best Preakness I ever saw, including a Fleet Alex when he almost fell, was Sunday Silence and Easy Goer. And I did an interview with Patrick Valenzuela where he described in detail everything that happened in that race, wrote an article about it a couple of years back. And I think it's the best article on that, not because I wrote it, because it's because of P. Val, not because of me. I'm going to put a link to it here. It's such a great description of that race, which, as you know, was an epic Preakness.
It's very special Preakness. And, one thing about Pimlico as a whole, most people may be familiar with it. Pimlico has been around since like 1865, 1870. It's literally the second oldest track in the country, next to Saratoga. And one Preakness memory, and I have many that I wanted to share. 20 years, John. This is how time flies by. 20 years since Smarty Jones and that colossal romp in the Preakness. But one of the things, I go back to Smarty Jones, and it's 20 years, 2004.
Wow.
And I believe Smarty Jones' victory could have been the most wide margin victory in the history of the Preakness. But what
did he win that race by? I don't even remember.
Maybe 10, 11, or 12 lengths.
Okay.
Yeah. But one of the things that really brings back a memory, and I'm sensitive to this, 20 years ago, my daughter Sammy, 4 years old, for the race in my house on Staten Island, she's sitting on my lap. And Smarty Jones is the number 7 horse. Now, my last name, Seti or Sette, is the number 7 in Italian. And that day, I was decisive, as I normally am, but especially that day with Smarty Jones, I knew the horse was special, but I played a 7-10, literally rock hard 10 exacta. And it was just so much fun having my little girl on my lap, watching the race unfold the way it did, and the way Smarty Jones won, going away. And rock hard 10, the 10 is second, and exacta paid so many area, like $26, $27. And it was like a real nice score for Mr. Seti that day. But 20 years, John, where did 20 years go?
Time flies. I mean, I remember Secretariat's Preakness. I mean, I forget about it. Time flies, especially when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
This year, I think the race is interesting. We've got the Derby winner. We've got another interesting horse coming out of the Derby. And I'm excited about it. It looks like, from the weather reports, we're going to have a sloppy track. It is what it is. I've been writing about something for a long time, and everybody says that I'm nuts, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it. And I would love to see it in horse racing. My brother loves to bet California because he doesn't like to worry about the weather. Used to love Saratoga, but you get those rain out days off the turf, You know, sometimes you do all the work, you don't expect the rain, bang, it rains, and you DOA. Okay, you got to start all over again, adjust. Why can't we do one of two things? Okay, build a racetrack with a dome, like some of the stadiums that open and close. Sport of Kings. Who's got more money than the Sport of Kings? Dome. And I got a low budget route. And I've been writing about this for 20 years. So when somebody does it, eventually, nobody's ever going to know that I said it. All right. But you'll know if you watch the show. The other alternative, Geo, you're a sports guy. Why don't we have a tarp, okay, that we could roll out over the track, roll out over the turf like a grounds crew does at baseball, and keep the track dry and the turf dry when it rains overnight, and pause between the races and take care of the racetrack, especially the grass.
Interesting point. And you know what? They do it in the major leagues in baseball,
I know.
but in the NFL, they don't cover the field, right?
Correct.
So
I would love that. Now,
yeah.
If I was a young guy and looking to make money, I'd be patenting that. I'd be all over that and selling it. Like the guys that came up, Michael Dickinson, all these guys came up with the PETA, this, that, the other thing. Now it's going by the wayside. Maybe it's coming back. Who knows? But a lot of guys got very rich of coming up with those synthetic racetracks and selling them to the different tracks.
Hey, it could be part of the future. Look what they're doing at Belmont. Massive renovation.
Yeah.
Belmont in 26 is going to be something ridiculously special.
If it's done by 26, I think a safer bet may be 27. And another thing that I'll say here first that a lot of people are not talking about, I don't think, could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think they ever moved the Belmont Stakes back to 1.5 miles. I think they're going to leave it at 1.25 miles going forward, which is a shame, but hopefully I'm wrong. I
hope you're wrong, because it really is the test of champions, going 3 weeks after the Preakness and 5 weeks after the Derby, going that 1.5 miles. It kind of like puts a big asterisk on a history if we don't continue at the 12 furlongs, 1.5 miles,
Agree 100%. Why don't we get right into the race, and we'll do it the same format we did the Derby. We'll go back and forth. You'll do one horse first, I'll do it second, then we'll switch up, and we'll get through this field in no time.
Absolutely.
You can hit lead off. Mugatu, thoughts?
All right. Mugatu or Mugatu. I looked up I'm not sure how it's the proper pronunciation, but Mugatu or Mugatu. Wow. You know what? Because I have sort of an obsession, and I watch so many of the starters. I've already watched so many of the races, but I didn't watch too much of this horse. But still, I felt compelled to watch his races, and I did. And here's my conclusion. First of all, I think it's pretty cool that Jersey Joe Bravo is getting a mount, out of left field. If you look at it, he actually rode this colt maiden win at Gulfstream. So it's cute that Jersey Joe Bravo's on the mount, but cute is good for Disney films, not for the Preakness in a lot of ways. I kind of smiled at the morning line on this colt because I like to create my own morning lines. When I saw 20-1 in this field, it didn't make any sense to me. In my humble opinion, I thought the morning line on this horse should have been 35 or 40-1. And I don't see the horse getting much action at all. I mean, 181-1 in the bluegrass. Very few starts on a dirt track, mostly on synthetic and turf. The horse took forever to break his maiden. I did find it was interesting that he had 2 solid breezes at Belterra over in Ohio. You don't see many horses working over the Belterra Oval. But I look at this horse, 1 lone maiden win, much slower in terms of his speed ratings. Only win is his maiden win, complete outsider. Aside from his 2 works and a sentimental story that Jersey Joe is on him, he's a toss for me. I don't see him. He's the most likely horse to finish last or next to last, in my opinion.
Well, I could be brief with him. no shot, in my opinion. Too slow, no shot. Next, toss. Don't give me any chance to win the race at all. Uh, and one thing we should point out for the people that don't know us,
Yeah.
we handicap a little bit differently. Geo tends to look more for horses. I mean, he looks for the winner, obviously, but he'll look more for horses that have a chance of running second or third or fourth and kind of, breaks it down to a precise order of finish. I look for the winner.
Yeah.
Once I zero in on the winner, then I'll look for maybe a long shot to stick behind them and play some gimmicks that way. But it's just a little bit of a different approach. So,
And John, just to add to that,
when I say toss, I'm saying I don't think the horse got a shot to win.
yeah, and John, I'm glad you brought that up. For our viewers, one of the reasons why I tend to just elaborate regardless of the horse in the race, because there could be viewers that are interested in knowing more about Mugatu. So why not share? Why not share like those works at Belterra? Why not share that there were good breezes, or the sentimental fact that Jersey Joe was on? Give as much information for the viewers as possible to be informed.
I agree. No worries.
But he has no shot.
No worries. Uncle Heavy. Okay, I'm up. Uncle Heavy. I mean, the first thing that jumps out at you is the jockey switch from Michael Sanchez to Irad Ortiz. And I don't know anybody right now in the game that steps up on the big days and puts their game face on like Irad does. I mean, he just elevates his game to a new level on the big days. This certainly qualifies as one of those. But he still needs a partner. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're in a race against all Maseratis and you're driving a Ford, no disrespect to Fords, but you're not going to win. Now, to Gio's way of thinking, this is a horse that maybe can plod up and run, third or fourth at best. But I don't give him much of a chance to win. I think he's too slow. I don't think that Irad can do enough to get him into the race. He can go forward second off the layoff. He was off from February to April. Now he runs back, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm too many better, faster horses in here for me to get anywhere near Uncle Heavy.
Okay, John. I mean, I'm going to add more to that, but I appreciate what you shared. Irad, undoubtedly, the first thing that jumps at you, like you just mentioned, he elevates any horse's chances, whether it's a grade one who's proven, whether it's a sprint on a turf, a mile and a quarter on the dirt, sloppy, fast. Irad's always going to give you an elevated chance in a big race because he always shows up, and his talent is, he's elite for that reason. Now, it made me dig deeper into this guy. I mean, Butch Reed, I feel, is doing a good job training him. I think the horse has improved as a 3-year-old from his juvenile races. He is a Pennsylvania bred. I feel like he's going to have better chances to close with a greater closing punch if it's wet. I was impressed, and I wanted to point this out with this horse. That's why it was interesting that Irad's on him. The horse is 3 for 5, so he's shown to have a nose for the wire. Undoubtedly, he is slower compared to many in this field. And to me, you have to exhibit the ability over the track to compete with others that have clearly exhibited that. However, one of the things I found was interesting about this guy is that drive. He does have some guts in him. And I don't see this race as being very rapid pace, but if others falter, Irad's going to keep this guy and time a close just enough, especially if it's sloppy. Remember, elevated if it's sloppy or wet. I wouldn't be shocked if Uncle Heavy hits the board in your triple or super because of IRAD, because of IRA. It'd be a big surprise. I don't see him as a contender to win. It'd be a big surprise if he made the exacta, but I would not be shocked because of IRAD's ability and the fact that this horse shown some guts and he's improved as a 3-year-old, for him to make his presence felt in your deeper gimmicks.
Okay. Moving right along. Catching Freedom. You're up.
Wait, one other point I forgot on him. I need to share this with the audience. One more thing on Uncle Heavy, because I put a little asterisk. In his last, from the 13 hole, if you watch the race in the Wood Memorial, he broke slowly. Then he was wide throughout the entire race. So when a horse breaks slow and is wide throughout the entire race, it doesn't give you a good indication. That's why I think he'll improve from that. Last thought on him. Okay, we're moving on to Catching Freedom.
You're up.
I'm up. Okay.
You're up.
Catching Freedom. Now, as I said during the Kentucky Derby, by default, I have much respect for Brad Cox and Flavien Prat. In my opinion, Flavien Prat is a smart rider who always makes sound decisions. I consider him elite. You know, Flavien originated and started out most of his career on the West Coast, and he's made a name for himself throughout the country. Everybody knows who he is. So, and I believe he came out of the Kentucky Derby clean and full of run. And I like that. Actually, when I studied the Derby in the final 8, he was moving pretty well. So it opened my eyes a bit in terms of how I was preparing my thoughts on Catching Freedom for this race. He's already defeated. I'm sorry, my phone rang. He's already defeated Tuscan Gold and Just Steel. Obviously, we know his finish in the Kentucky Derby. Do I think he has another one in him? Yeah, and I think he'll come in a stretch, but I don't know if the pace and the horses, I believe, will be on the lead as they turn for home. I think there's going to be just a little too much distance. So even though I feel Captain Catching Freedom is good enough from a Beyer speed rating perspective to upset the field, I think he's basically my 4th choice on the board. If he runs his very best, he could potentially fill the exacta and certainly be an exotic threat in your triple or your super. But others are just more appealing to me, even though I think he's going to come out of the Derby better than all the others that are coming back from the Derby.
Well, there's only a couple, but no argument with anything you said. You know, interestingly enough, I was looking at some stats, and I'm not a stat guy, and I think that Brad Cox has only run. I did this yesterday or the day before, and I got so much going on, it's hard for me to remember. But Brad Cox has only run one horse back this quick in a Grade 1, and it was the horse he won the Lexington with a couple of years ago. I forget his name. So he's 1 for 1 running back in a Grade 1 this quick. So you know, that tells me he doesn't do that unless he likes the way the horse come out of the race, and really thinks he's going to go forward. And you know, he wouldn't shock me at all. He's one of the players for sure. There are 4 horses I think can win the race. I land on one of them. I'm going to say I land on. I'm going to use 2 of them. But there's 4 horses I think can realistically win. He's one of them. But I don't like the pace setup for him. I don't like the scenario he's going to get. I think he's going to have to make up a lot of ground. And a big misconception about Pimlico with the tight turns and it being the Preakness is that it's a speed favoring oval. History says otherwise. It's a relatively fair track, and many closers have won the Preakness, even deep closers. So, I don't. I don't put much stock in that. But Catching Freedom is a player. He certainly wouldn't be a shock. I agree with your take on the Derby. I think he was finishing well. I don't think he was finishing as good as some of the others. I don't think there was any really problem to his trip that really hurt him significantly. And I will say this about the Derby. Sierra Leone and Forever Young will probably get significantly faster numbers on Thoroughgraph than the winner, Mystik Dan, did, because he saved all that ground, and they both had quite a bit of ground loss. We are going to do a Derby Thoroughgraph show, Preakness Thoroughgraph show, if we get the Thoroughgraph sheets in time based on my schedule. They're not out yet, or we would be doing that. But Catching Freedom, a player, I wouldn't talk anybody off him. I like Pratt. I like Cox. They win, but I've got a couple I'm going to go to before him. So he's unfortunately or fortunately not going to be on my ticket.
Good point there, John.
Okay. Next,
You start with Muth.
Muth. This brings me back to my opening statement. There's no value, in my opinion, in a losing wager. Now, doing these shows and coming up with a horse who's going to be the favorite or co-favorite, depending on how much money Mystik Dan takes, you take heat for that. You take criticism for that. That doesn't bother me in the least, okay? And if you like Muth, it shouldn't bother you. The idea is to win money. And whether I land on a 20-1 shot, I mean, a Notable Speech paid $25 last Saturday. Loved him. Bet as much on him as I would on an even money horse. A lot of very good handicappers, and people who do this here say, I like that horse, but I wouldn't bet him at that price. I don't subscribe to that theory. Okay, I like to bet who I believe is going to win. And if it happens to be the favorite or it happens to be a 20-1 shot, I'm going to find a way to create value with my wager. So if I like Muth, which I do, if I like Muth, I'm going to find a way to bet Muth where there's value. I'm going to single him in a pick 5. I'm going to single him in a pick 4. I'm going to bet a cold exacta him on top of one horse. I'm going to bet a triple him on top of that same horse with a, maybe 1 or 2 second. And I'm going to approach it that way. All right. I'm not going to bet who I think is going to win because he's the favorite or he's a short price or he's an underlay or an overlay. I don't let the board dictate to me. I play the hand that I'm dealt. I don't bet against my own opinion. A lot of people do. A lot of people say, well, I couldn't bet him at that price. I knew he was going to win. Good luck. That's your style. That's what you do. That's okay. Now, back to Muth. Muth, to me, is going to be very, very hard to beat in this race. I think he's the fastest horse in the race. I think the inside draw against the other Bob Baffert horse, the Imagination, gives him the option to go or maybe sit. I tend to think he's going to go. But whether he goes or whether he sits makes no difference to me. I think he's going to be a handful to get by in this mile and a 3/16 race. He's absolutely a major player. He manhandled Mystik Dan in the Arkansas Derby. Mystik Dan come out of that race to win the Kentucky Derby. He didn't run, so he's fresh. He's got patented Bob Baffert 111 6 furlong workouts. When Bob works a horse for one of these races in 111, they are always on go. Juan Hernandez is rock solid. He wins a lot of races out there. He won the Arkansas Derby. It's about time he gets known in other parts of the country because that gentleman can horseback. He's a strong rider, smart rider. Reminds me of the old Ruben Hernandez back at the old Naira days. They're a very similar kind of style to Ruben when Ruben was good. Muth, top choice, major player, tough to beat. And my thing is, I don't think the slop will bother him. I think the slop will drive Mystik Dan's price down, which I hope happens. And I hope a lot of people move on Mystik Dan and lean to Mystik Dan, which you and I discussed, Geo, off the air. and we discussed on the Thoroughgraph show, he had a Z pattern kind of developing. That's kind of continued. The Derby was an up race for him, maybe on a down race now, especially running back quick. So I'll take Muth over him all day long.
Awesome, John. And this is going to be good news for many of our listeners, because one thing about John and I, we have a significant history of handicapping grade ones. And we don't always come up and land on the same horse to win and be decisive about it. But when we do, seriously, we're in the area of 90, 92, 95% success. I landed on Muth too. I'm going to use 2 words right now, and then I'm going to elaborate a little. And John basically made many contributing valid points that I don't even need to speak of because he's already shared. But my 2 words I'm going to use is fresh and primed. Muth, we know about Baffert's success. He's won this race 8 times. We know he's got, and he should have, all due respect, he should have a chip on his shoulder because they didn't allow him to race in the Kentucky Derby this year. Obviously, he had a couple big 3-year-olds, and Muth would have been a major presence in the
Muth beat Mystik Dan in the Arkansas Derby. He doesn't get to run in the Kentucky Derby. It's got to make you say, things that make you go,
Yeah,
that's one of them.
So more on Muth, some stuff that John didn't share, but he knows of. First of all, the son of good magic, bred wonderfully for this race and to be a great racehorse. $2 million yearling, 2-time grade 1 winner, the only one in the race, ultra consistent. The horse has been training favorably. I love the way Bob works his horses, the 2 Bullet Breezes. Hanley works 6 furlongs and 111. There's too much of him, and he's too fast for the others in the race. And the fact that he's going to come out of the gate and actually assume his position. And in my opinion, he's going to sit just off his stablemate. But even if his stablemate didn't get out with Frankie, Muth can wire the field. And again, to reinforce what John said about the price, I'm about handicapping who I land on, who I feel decisive about winning. My history in the Preakness, I mean, you go back a decade ago, 11 years ago, in 2013, Orb came out of the Derby for Shug. He was 3-5 in the Preakness. I didn't like him. I threw him off the board, and I landed on and liked Gary Stevens on Oxbow. And it ended up being very favorable for me because even though he was beaten in the Derby, I knew he had a tactical advantage with his speed in the Preakness. So Muth, decisively, not only the horse to beat, but he's going to be the key of all my wagers. And I, too, may very well single him in my multiples.
Last thing to close on Muth. I know we don't like to go back and say, but and you alluded to this, because you mentioned his bloodlines. But Good Magic was by Curlin. His dam was by Uncle Mo. I don't think you can get much better off track or sloppy track or wet track breeding than that. He's never been on it, so it's always a question mark. But as far as the breeding goes, I think he should relish it.
Yeah, I think he actually moves forward even more so, and it's going to be tougher for the others to make up ground with him on the lead, turning for home.
Okay. Mystik Dan, the Kentucky Derby winner. Geo, you're up.
All right. First things first, we all saw what happened. BJ Hernandez, hell of a good guy, and much respect and accolades to him, what he did in the Kentucky Derby. Perfect ride, got room on the rail. Rosario made it convenient for him, but let's face it, we know what he won by, not much. And it was a big effort, but I don't think Mystik Dan is the best horse in Ken McPeak's barn. To be honest with you, Torpedo Anna, if that filly was entered in this race, it would be very compelling.
And he talked about that on the interview. We got an interview with Ken on the show. I had him on the show a couple of days ago, It's a great interview. You should listen to it. He was really very forthcoming about a lot of stuff you won't hear anywhere else. So check out that interview. But go ahead, Gio. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely. Yeah, folks, if you missed it, take John's advice, watch it, because Ken McPeak really opened up and shared some very interesting points about what in the day of a life of a trainer as he prepares a horse for a big race. But to add on to Mystik Dan here, 2 weeks later, that effort in this field, regardless of the track condition, I'm hoping, because just last year, when Mage went into the Preakness, and John, you remember this, and my audience would remember this. I had no business in using Mage. And Mage, because people were enamored by the Kentucky Derby winner, he was 7-5 in the Preakness. I didn't like him. I thought at best he would be a belated third or fourth, which is exactly what happened. I actually like Red Route 1 over him, but I was decisive with both National Treasure and Blazing 7, 7-1, 1-7. They fought down, down the stretch. So just like you, John, I'm hoping Mystik Dan, because he won the Kentucky Derby, is on everybody's mind. And I don't blame Ken McPeak for being optimistic. He's got that charisma. My horse is ready, came out well. And he's achieved a phenomenal achievement by winning the Oaks and the Derby. But in this matchup, 2 weeks later, I don't have Mystik Dan in my top four. I think it was a nice run for him. It's just too soon. Others are just more appealing.
I got to agree with you. He's not one of my four contenders. And I've said it before. Horses humble everybody. You know what I mean? You're going to be wrong more than you're going to be right, and that's if you're great at this game. You're still going to be wrong more than right. I don't like Mystik Dan coming into the race. We talked about the Z pattern: good race, bad race, good race, bad race on the Thoroughgraph. He was coming up to a good race in the Derby. He's coming to a regression now. He's running back quick. Ken was on the fence about running him. He's showing the right signs, and he's going to run. But there's always that hidden pressure to run in the Kentucky Derby, in the Preakness, if you win the Derby. I don't like him. I think Muth manhandled him. Catching Freedom, who's in the race, beat him. You got two horses in here who beat him. I'm hoping he takes a lot of money. I'm hoping the Derby hype rides with him. I'm hoping the sloppy track drives down his price, and I'm hoping he helps the prices of the horses that I like by taking money. But I'm against Mystik Dan on Saturday. Moving right along, and we're in agreement on that too. So we're in agreement on two interesting points in the race that may not be too popular of opinions. Who's up? I think I'm up for Seize the Gray.
Yeah, you start Seize the Gray.
Seize the Gray is intriguing because I don't remember many winners of the Pat Day Mile. Well, it used to be the Derby Mile, right? They used to run it on Derby Day, and then they changed it. They used to run it a week before the Derby, and it was kind of like that last minute, shot to get in the Derby way back when. But now it's on Derby Day, the Pat Day Mile. I don't remember many Pat Day Mile winners wheeling back in the Preakness off the top of my head. So that's an intriguing little thought, but I don't like him. I mean, Lucas has a tendency to surprise. I think the surprise was last time. It might not have been that big a surprise, but it was definitely a surprise to me. I didn't like him going in that race. He's another horse that's never really won 2 in a row. I don't really think the distance is going to be a problem for him, but I think he kind of, ran his eyeballs out, running back quick. I'm against him. I just think there are others that are better and faster than him and will like a mile and 3/16 as much or more than he does. He has been over a wet track twice. He's handled it well. So that's not really a concern. But again, I have too many others higher on the list to get to him.
Okay, John. I enjoyed all you shared. Sees the Gray, son of Arrogant. Like I said, I don't have an issue with the distance either. I do like the fact that, Lucas is always going to run all of his colts often. And this guy, my God, it's going to be his 5th race since February 24th. What I felt was interesting is his ability to travel. It'll be his 5th racetrack in 5 races. He does move up on the wet going, so he'll get a little notch there. However, the mile, which was suitable in the Pate mile for him, I do see him as more of a grade 2, high-end grade 3, low-end grade 2 horse. He surprised me as well in the Pate mile, but it wasn't an impossible win. Going into this race, I said if it's dry, I don't like him at all. And if it's wet, because he's got the Arrogant pedigree and the fact that the horse travels well, I gave him, some consideration only, and I mean only, if I'm going to play a deeper gimmick in my superfecta, meaning if some of the horses don't fire their best, who I like above him, he may sneak in late in your superfecta. But yeah, I'm not enthusiastic about his chances overall for Seize the Gray in this race.
Okay. Lucas has 2. Just Steel. What do you think of his other one?
Now, Just Steel, I'm putting a line through the Kentucky Derby. He did make sort of his presence felt early on, which surprised me. I understand that maybe they were trying a different tactic. I thought it was interesting that Lucas is putting Rosario up, he used to ride him as a juvenile, and recently he hasn't been on him. But in this field, with the speed that I know that's up front, and I don't believe they're going to go with him early, so he'll be sitting like mid-pack because he does have tactical speed. He'll need to have his career best 2 weeks later from his most recent effort. Remember, 12 horses, very experienced, son of Justify. But I think he ran a big race in the Arkansas Derby. And in my humble opinion, I think that race took something out of him. And he may need a little bit of a rest. So I'm not using Just Steel, even though I love Rosario on big race days. And a lot of people are going to say, wow, he was second to Muth in the Arkansas Derby. Maybe he'll do it again. Different race layout. I think he needs a bit of a layoff, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, like you said, Wayne, he doesn't miss many dances. If his horses can run, he believes in running them, not keeping them in the barn, contrary to a lot of the, modern day trainers, like the next one that we're going to get to that, runs when they think they're going to win. I don't like Just Steel. Again, there's just a lot of horses in here that have already handled them. I don't see anything that tells me, hey, I'm going to jump forward here and turn the tables on a lot of these horses. So he'd be a surprise to me. The next horse would not. The next horse is the horse that I'm very tempted to use. If I use 2 in the pick 5 and I wind up betting it that way, Tuscan Gold is the other one that I think is a major threat in this race. And if he loses it, it might just be because Muth is faster and he's just not got enough seasoning right now to overcome that. But I believe Tuscan Gold will be one of the better 3-year-olds by the end of the year, and we'll hear more from him. Definitely, in my opinion, a grade 1 type of 3-year-old. And I've been on him since he lost at Aqueduct as a maiden. Okay, I loved him the day he won at Gulfstream. I loved him in the Louisiana Derby. I thought he ran a great race in the Louisiana Derby against the much more experienced horses from a wide post. He was beat, looked like he was in reverse, and he came again. And when a horse does that, that tells me that they've got heart. Okay. And Bob Baffert is a friend of mine. Love the guy. Brings a horse to a race as good as anybody in the history of the game. The other guy that does that is Chad Brown. And I mean, Sierra Leone didn't win the Derby, but he couldn't have been brought to the race any better. Zandon didn't win the Derby. He couldn't have been brought to the race any better. You go back to early voting, cloud computing. Chad knew enough to skip the Derby, do what's right for his horse, point for the Preakness. This horse was entered in the Jim Dandy, but the Preakness was always the goal. The Jim Dandy was the backup plan in case he didn't show what Chad wanted to see to run him in Baltimore. He obviously did see it, okay? If he sees it, it's there, all right? That guy is as sharp as a razor blade right out of the box, okay? He's won 2 Preaknesses with this exact move. This horse, in my opinion, is a better horse than cloud computing or early voting. And I think we'll find that out Saturday, or we'll find that out later in the year. This horse is fresh, dangerous, pointed for this race, has a world of talent, and has a rider that is under an enormous amount of pressure. Okay. Tyler Gaffleone took a lot of heat, and I covered that on the Derby Takeaway show. He took a lot of heat for the ride in the Kentucky Derby. Some of it, in my opinion, over-dramatized and overplayed. But Chad stuck with him. He puts him on this horse. He's got an enormous amount of pressure on him to perform and deliver. I think that he is up to that challenge. He's a tough kid. He's a good rider. And I think he's up to the challenge. And I think he's got a horse under him that's going to give him a lot of run. I think the race in the Louisiana Derby was a race he got a lot out of. Like I said, if you go watch that replay, I bet him that day. I said, look at this. He's finished. He just don't have it. And in that long fairground stretch, he kind of came again, kicked in, light bulb went off, figuring it out. Chad's had time to work with him, time to train him. I'm looking for a huge race out of Tuscan Gold on Saturday in the Preakness. If he doesn't win it, I think his absolutely makes his presence felt and says, hello, everybody. You better watch out for me later in the year. And if he does win it, this guy will not be surprised at all.
Awesome, John, because now this is getting exciting for the weekend, because Mr. Setti shares a lot of the sentiments that you shared with this horse, and my main horse and threat, my number one exacta play on the Muth, and a must-use in your triples, no doubt. And I was actually going to contemplate whether I was going to use them in my multiples, because I just think Muth is primed, and he's just, if he runs this race, he's going to win. But here's more on Tuscan Gold. I agree. The Louisiana Derby, and folks, if you haven't watched it, or if you have watched it, go and watch it again. He breaks from the 11 hole, and he's 4 wide around the first turn. That itself, for a horse that only has 2 starts, is not an easy task. So he's 4 wide around the first turn. He's got to go 1 mile and 3/16, which is 110 yards less than 1 mile and a quarter. He could have packed it in the stretch, but he didn't. He came on again. He ran a fat number. Everything John said about Chad Brown is correct. And, you know, if you're a lover of the game and fan of the sport, you know his conditioning methods. And you know that he's bypassed races like the Kentucky Derby for the betterment of the horse and point them to a race like this. And Mr. Setti, what I do is I start charting 3-year-olds this time of the year for later on, for the Haskell over at Monmouth and for the Travers at Saratoga. And Tuscan Gold, he's a horse that's going to make his presence felt all year round. Very impressed with him. You know, John mentioned his debut, his maiden race. He lost to Sierra Leone that day. Then he wins at Gulfstream off the layoff. His first race as a 3-year-old. runs big, effortlessly, and then that big race in the Louisiana Derby. I feel he does move forward. I feel that he's going to have a big run in the stretch because others may not be able to keep up with the speed like I feel he's gonna. And if he gets a good trip, I think he's going to be full of run in the stretch, and he's the most likely exacta finisher, possible upsetter as well. So good points, John. And wow, we're on the same deuce here.
We are on the same page here. Yeah. So interesting. Now, Imagination. That's interesting because that I got you that day. You were on Imagination and I was on Stronghold, and they came right. I mean, we were neck and neck right down to the wire. And I got you the last jump. But different race, different day. You start with Imagination.
Yeah, I'm going to lead with Imagination because
you lead off with him.
Yeah, there are many things I like about this horse, and I'm glad I can open up with him, and John will expand on it from that point on. Imagination is a gutty, gritty fighter. 6 for 6 lifetime in the exacta, winning twice. But what was most intriguing about him, obviously in the same barn with Muth, Bob Baffert trained, into Mischief, $1,050,000 as a yearling, big time pedigree, out of Magical Feeling by Empire Maker, working bullets, just like Bob works his horses. Frankie Dettori, third time Frankie Dettori. He's never won a race like the Preakness. He's done everything you could imagine in the sport. Legendary figure, great rider. And he's the pilot for a horse that is gritty, likes to fight. And one more indication, please watch the races. He's been in 1, 2, 3, 4 photos. And in those photos, he dug down deep. He's the type of horse that you want to be fighting for you. I have no reservations about the distance. The post is a little challenging. Not that it's alarming, but a little challenging because I think Bob, he's got to think of the interest of both of his horses. He's going to send Imagination. I think Muth is going to sit just off. And if Imagination doesn't break perfectly like he could, I think Muth is going to take the lead. But I see those two turning for home, 1-2. And it's not out of the realm of possibility for a Bob Baffert exacta here. I have him as a contender. My cold triple, based on my handicap and what you've heard me say, would be Muth, Tuscan Gold, and Imagination. But Frankie adds to his appeal, and that grit. I don't think the Santa Anita Derby took too much out of him. I think he's got another race in him, and he's always supported at the window. The only thing I was concerned about is it's his first time out of California, where Muth has done that when he went to the Arkansas Derby. So Imagination has to prove to me, and I don't see any problem with it because Baffert's done it 100 times, he's got to prove to me that he travels well. But if he travels well and he takes to the track, he's a contender, especially if Muth doesn't provide his best because he's going to be on the lead. And if Tuscan Gold doesn't fire, which I feel he will, he's the most likely horse to fill your exact if Tuscan Gold doesn't. And Imagination is going to be used in all my triples and my supers.
Well, I like it. I agree with everything you said. You know, if you look at the picture, the lead-in picture, our California photographer, Ernie Belmonte, who does a great job and gets a lot of great shots of Bob's horses in the morning. You'll see Muth and Imagination working together, and they both got those two, 111 workouts, the patented Bob grade 1, sitting on a big race move that I love to see when he's going into a race. Imagination has no knock, and I think that the reason the main reason that I lean to Muth, we talked a lot about on our Derby show, Geo, about how I think the draw is a little bit overrated, and I think that the draw in the Preakness means less than I do in the Derby. But I think it's actually important in this race, and I think it kind of plays a little bit against imagination, because I think it kind of puts Frankie in a position where he's got to really gun and get over and try and clear if he wants to do that. And Bob won't give these guys instructions. All right. He'll tell them to play the break, you know, and let it go from there. And both horses are capable of going, and both horses are capable of sitting. I think the only thing he'll probably tell them is, if you guys go head and head, 22-45, don't come back to the barn.
That won't happen. You're right.
Right. That might be the only thing he tells them. But as far as, giving them instructions, I would gamble based on all my conversations with Bob that he'll tell him to play the break, and, you don't know how they're going to come out of there, and whoever comes out goes, and whoever doesn't sits. But, Frankie's going to be keyed up. He's never won a Triple Crown race. I got a feeling he's just going to try and gun and clear. I don't know if he can clear Muth, probably, but I think that's an interesting dynamic to the race, how those two, play off each other. If you think one is going to block for the other one, you're watching the wrong show. That's not going to happen. So Imagination is the third one that I would say. Okay, so when I said I had four, it was Muth, Tuscan Gold, Catching Freedom, and Imagination. I'm going to toss Catching Freedom because I don't like the setup for him, and I don't think the speed is going to come back, even though I think Pimlico is an honest track and you can win from far back. I just don't think this quality speed is going to come back, and I think Tuscan Gold will get the jump on Catching Freedom and be able to outfinish him this time when he couldn't in Louisiana, because he's more of a horse now. So those are the three that I think can really win the race. I'll narrow it down to three. Now, Muth remains the top choice, but how I would like to play this race, and a lot of it will depend on the early part of the card, which I have not looked at. But if I see prices and wide open races in the pick five leading up to the Preakness, I would love to be in a position where I'm alive with Muth, Imagination, and Tuscan Gold, with some prices leading into the race. So if I can envision that scenario and not have to pick one over the other three, over the other two, I would love to be in that position, because I'd probably go back and double up or triple up on Muth and sit back with the other ones. But that's really how I see the race. Muth is the top choice, but Tuscan Gold and Imagination warrant a lot of respect. Tuscan Gold probably a notch higher on my list than Imagination. I will share this. Bob has said that Imagination didn't come along as fast as Muth, but is getting better, and he's starting to figure it out, and Bob's starting to figure him out, and their workouts are very, good together. So I don't think that either one would be a surprise, and I don't think he would be bringing them both if he didn't think they both had a really, really good chance. So if you like Imagination more than Muth, don't let me sway you, because they're both pretty serious racehorses.
And they could potentially run 1-2. And
No question.
One of the bets I wanted to share with the audience, because if I'm decisive on Muth over Tuscan Gold and Imagination in my exactas, I was thinking if we could get Irad to get Uncle Heavy, especially if it's wet, home in the Super, that could be a very attractive Super play if we can get Mystik Dan to finish behind him. So that's a possibility. You got to measure price. But John, good point. You got to see how the race day is plotting. I have to make a business decision whether I'm going to go 2 or 3 deep in the race. If I am, I have the same 3 horses, because my first thought was, and I always cover my decisiveness. So I know I'm going to have a cold triple and a cold super with Muth, Tuscan Gold, Imagination, and the combo of Catching Freedom and Uncle Heavy. I'm not using Mystik Dan in my super. My point I'm making there is based on the odds, and if we're lucky enough, based on our collective thoughts, if Mystik Dan does attract a lot of window action, it's going to inflate our price for the triple, for the super, and for the exacta. But going forward, and by the way, it's a nice undercard, a lot of handicapping to be done. I did a lot of work on Friday's card, some quality turf races, competitive fields on Friday. And I'm going to start my undercard handicap for Saturday, today and tomorrow. But good point.
Preakness Day to me is not a day I really go after the supers. I don't bet as much on Preakness Day as I do on Derby and Belmonte. What I would like to do, okay, and this is my ticket structure strategy for Saturday. I would like to do the pick 5. I'd like to find a single in the pick 5 before the Preakness that's not a favorite. 5-1, 8-1, 10-1. Single that horse, okay? Structure everything around him and be able to be alive in the Preakness and make nice money on any one of the 3 that I like, and then double up on the one, probably Muth, who I decide, is the one I want to go back at. So that would be the ideal scenario for me. I haven't done the other races yet, so I don't know whether it's going to work out that way or not. But these are all window decisions, and you make them as you go along.
Yep.
But I think Mystik Dan, getting him out of the win hole, and him taking a lot of money can help the pick 5. Hopefully he gets bet a lot, especially on the sloppy track. I think the sloppy track will definitely drive his price down a half a point or a point, at minimum. So if you don't like him, that's good. So that's really it. Any questions? I know somebody asked earlier about notables. I will ask Chad for hats. They'll probably send them, and we'll come back to that. Pick 5 is 12% takeout. I love that, Michael. So that's kind of the way to go for me. And if it can, I could structure it that way, that's great. Somebody asked about notable speech, how I knew he was running. I watch and follow all the races. That race that he won was the 2000 Guineas. And I will throw something else out there for you guys now. You know that I follow the European racing. Okay, Geo, you know how into that European racing I am. Okay?
Big time. Yep.
Going to give you a name. Okay, remember where you heard it. Notable speech. Okay, won one race. I told you, Group 1 winner. Los Angeles. Coolmore. Aiden O'Brien. Okay, notable speech is a Godolphin. This horse is a runner and a half, mile and a half, whatever. This is a horse that during the course of the year, you're going to see maybe the Epsom Derby, the Irish Derby, maybe the Arc. We're talking that, and he's only 3-year-old. That kind of level. To get back to notable speech, I truly thought that they were going to run in the UAE Derby and try the Kentucky Derby. They kept him on the grass, and they may feel that, a 1.25 miles might have been too far for him right then and there. But, so I follow those races. I put those horses on my stable mail. I pay attention. I know, I watch those races every day. I look at the results. I watch the replays, especially the Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and listed races. I got a whole list of those horses with my own notes. So that's why I know. John, what do you think about Just Steel on the Muth because of his big zigzag pattern prior to Kentucky Derby? Maybe he goes back. Yeah, maybe, Carl, but I go back to what I said earlier. I handicap differently. That's more of a question for Geo because I'm trying to isolate who I think can win right now. Once I do that, I usually don't make exacta, triple, superfected decisions until game day. You know what I mean? Like I may know I love the 5 and I'm betting the 5 and I'm keying the 5 and I'm going to bet him in 1 or 2 exactas. But I often don't know who those exactas are going to be until they ran a couple of races, until race day. So it's almost impossible for me, and a lot of handicappers do it, I just don't. It's impossible for me to sit here now and say, I'm going to take this horse with these horses underneath them, because that's a game time decision for me.
All right, I'll add something for Carl. Carl,
Nysos is working. Nysos is working. But go ahead, Gio. That's a better question for you.
yeah, for Carl, if you remember what I spoke about with Just Steele, very impressed with what he did in the Arkansas Derby. Staying the course in deep stretch, second to Muth. But that race, he ran a 95 buyer, took a lot out of him. To me, it was reflective in the Kentucky Derby. And in my opinion, I just think the horse is a bit tired now. He needs a break. He needs to lay off 7, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. And that's just how I see him coming into this race. They pressed him on the lead with Fierceness and Track Phantom in the Derby. Didn't work out. Race collapsed. I think he needs a break. I think it's too much for an ask for him to repeat what he did in the Arkansas Derby in this race in Preakness. I want to add one other thing, John. Race 12, the race prior to this Preakness, is the Grade 2 dinner party. And for most that don't know this, dinner party's they've been running the dinner party as long as they've been running the Preakness. In fact, the winner of the first dinner party, I think it was like 1870, the name of the horse was Preakness. That's why it's called the Preakness Stakes. That's a nice race coming into this Preakness Stakes. I got some more drilling, but I come up with 3 horses cold. Emmanuel, Jose Ortiz for Pletcher, and the 2 Bs, Running B and English B. I got to fine tune that. I got to see if it's going to be a soft turf that day, if there's going to be rain. I don't think they'll take it off the turf, but that's a nice race, a very bettable race as well.
All right, I'm going to close with this, and Gio, I think you're going to be able to kind of back me up on this a little bit because a lot of people may not know this. Gio and I both come from Sheepshead Bay. We grew up together, same friends, same area, same kind of background, same school of thought, and it's definitely an old school of thought, for lack of a better term. And I'm going to close out with this. Loyalty is almost a forgotten trait nowadays. Okay, society is a different world than when Gio and I grow up, and the values and everything has changed. I'm an extremely loyal guy. Okay, you won't find many more guys that are as loyal as me. And I'll say this on the record. Okay, Bob Baffert and Chad Brown are 2 friends of mine. Okay, I love both of those guys. Most of the people who hate them and bash them and knock them because of media reports, press reports, things they read, social media bullshit, and other crap, have never met and spent time with either one of them. And if you've never met or spent time with somebody, you really can't have that much of an opinion about them that really means anything. Okay, so for me, I have 2 good friends that are running in the same race. I will be smiling and congratulating and celebrating with either one of them who wins, regardless of my wager. Now, it happens to be, and this is no bias at all, that I think they have the 2 best shots of winning and the best horses in the race. But, think a little bit about the old school values and the values that are kind of disappearing. Loyalty. Yes, the name is Los Angeles, just like the city of angels, Los Angeles. Heard it here first, I'm pretty sure. Nobody's talking about him. Nobody was talking about Notable Speech. But getting back to the other thing, loyalty is an important thing. And that's why Gio and I appreciate a lot of you, because a lot of you have shown loyalty to us. We've been right, we've been wrong, but we've always been upfront. We've always been straight up. We've never told you one horse and bet another. We've never held back on anything. We try to really give you an honest, clear-cut, well-informed opinion based on, we're getting old, 100 years combined experience in betting these horses and trudging through the snow at Aqueduct and Gio will remember this, the toughest thing about getting into Aqueduct at February was not picking a winner, was walking across that black ice and not breaking your neck from where you parked.
Yeah.
Remember those days where you were walking on that pavement and you could take a slip there and go down like a ton of bricks, man. But yes, I do.
And on those days, the first thing we get is a nice hot clam chowder to
Right.
warm the inners.
Absolutely. You know, Joe, it's interesting that you say that. Who do I use? I use Brisnet, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't work. It's hit and miss, but it doesn't matter to me because these horses that I'm telling you, I know when they're running anyway because I'm all tuned in. I subscribe to Racing Post. I watch Sky TV. I do all this stuff on European racing because I'm very much into it. The European racing today is a lot like our racing in the 70s and 80s when I really loved it, and it was truly the sport of kings. Those guys breed to race. We breed to sell. It's a different game, different animal. So I love that racing, and now it shows because those horses come here, and come on, man, they dominate. No comments from Pletcher or Rapoli on fierceness. That's for them to comment. I gave my Derby takeaways. That's up to them. That's why I missed out on notable speech. I was so bummed. I'm sorry about that. I try and tell everybody, tracking trips, be a member. I put all of that stuff on tracking trips. Go to Past the Wire, tracking trips, man. Listen,
trips,
remember tracking trips, you'll never starve. Is all I can tell you. You watch Past the Wire TV, you'll never starve. We got you.
Stay in tune to Past the Wire TV, everything we do here. And even folks, you know what? I kind of like doing this because I also appreciate loyalty. If you follow me on Twitter, it's SETI Better Days. I'm going to be sharing some thoughts on some undercard races. In the comments here on this show, I'm going to put some thoughts in for my pick 5 and my main plays on the turf. Even Friday. Friday's a nice card. Friday, I expect to make good capital, which is going to provide for my betting and with more sense of urgency and more comfort on Saturday.
Sounds good. If we got no further questions, we'll wrap it up. We took everybody's time this morning. Joe, I think you'll like tracking trips. Any questions, you let me know. I'm easy to reach. Thank you, Rodney. You've been loyal. Really, Reva, you too, all of you. Michael, everybody. What do I think the odds on a Muth Tuscan Gold exacta? 30-1? No. I think that would be wishful thinking, 30-1. More like maybe I'm terrible at that, but maybe 10-1, right, Gio?
If that exacta comes out cold, I think because of Mystik Dan's money, I think we'll get like $23, $24 on a deuce.
Wow. Okay. All right.
On a deuce.
Okay. Yeah, that's more like what
it's like 11-1, 12-1 on a dollar.
And it really depends how short Muth goes. I don't know. Let me ask you this. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Let me ask you this, Gio. Let's close with this. Sheepshead Bay. Gio and me, absolutely.
The Bay Road.
Let me ask you this. Is there a chance that Mystik Dan goes off the favorite over Muth? No, right?
Nah. You know, it would be a wonderful thing to see. And Mage was favored last year, but even though many will be enamored with the Kentucky Derby winner, I just think Baffert, Muth, the smart minds are going to realize the talent that Muth has. Muth, in reality, should be even money in his field. He's probably going to be a gift at 7, 8, 9-5, but yeah, that'd be too much to ask for Mystik Dan to be favored.
Maybe we should tell everybody to tweet out, hey, we just watched the Jon and Geo show. They love Mystik Dan. And everybody tweet out, put it all over social media.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. We don't.
Remember, folks, Jon and I are deadly. Grade 1, shared handicap, different methods. When we land on the same, very high level of success, and that's no exaggeration over a very lengthy period of time.
I would say this. Did I ever jump off the Little Bridge water where the boats dock? Absolutely. I swam off that bridge. I think I still got barnacles stuck in my skin from climbing back up the bridge. absolutely jumped off that. I wouldn't do it today for $1 million, but we did it back then. Geo did it. Yeah. I know the story, Geo. I'm not going to bring it up.
Yeah,
but,
don't bring it up here.
Right. But yes, we have jumped off that bridge. Would not do it today. That water, I don't know. You could get like flesh-eating disease in that water nowadays.
You're right.
Back then we didn't know no better. We ate dirt. You know what I mean? Forget about it. It was different world. Different world. Thanks everybody.
Thank you as always.
Show us some love on social media. It helps. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let people know about us. It's a big help. The channel's growing. We appreciate that. And go make some money. Ciao for now.
Rock and roll, folks.